Look at it now. Chamberlain asked a question, and we're trying to see that, okay, this doesn't really jeopardize what is going to happen, maybe when AIB finally comes up with this report, or even with a preliminary report. And again, they say sometimes it's very, very hard for people not to speculate. Remember when this whole inquest started in Lagos here? Remember what Mr. Falana said? Well, he says that we have confirmed that the aircraft was allowed to fly even though it was defective. End of quote. So these are some of the statements. Some people say the fear might really jeopardize the true investigation of the AIB. If people are already saying that, well, we just gathered that, well, this particular aircraft was made to fly even though it was defective or it had problems, which has not been ascertained by the AIB. They said this shouldn't be.
The governor of Akwa Ibom State, Godswill Akpabul, categorically said he complained about the safety of that particular aircraft before the crash, and subsequently, changed his mind, because on the basis of that statement, an invitation was extended to him by the same inquest, by the same coroner.
So,
to appear.
Of what value would his testimony be?
Oh, well, I mean,
technicalities of this air crash.
Well, if I had complained based on a past experience that I experienced with this particular aircraft, an unusual.
Yeah, in that case, what would unusual be?
Unusual would be, for instance, unusual would be turbulence. I mean, without being an aviation expert, if you enter an aircraft and instead of smooth landing, you had a terrible landing with an unusual, voice sound that completely, or you hover around the airport instead of landing.
Of course, there are many reasons for hovering.
Look, at the end of the day, there was an accident that claimed the lives of so many Nigerians. Yeah, so what is not in dispute is that an accident did occur.
Yes, but what we're also saying, yes, the accident occurred, but is there any precedence, by the way, that you might cite for us to make reference to of a judicial commission
so many
coming up before the AIB report comes up, and even though the AIB report comes up, because the thing is, this AIB report can either validate or invalidate this inquest.
Now, that will not detract from what the inquest discovered. It will not detract. I mean, it will not remove from the fact that the inquest came out with this report.
Yeah, but aren't they two things?
Look, at the moment, Mr. Chamberlain, there is something you have to understand.
Which is?
And that is that, even as we speak, there is a very, very strong perception that there might be a competition of the level of information. There might be serious conflict of information regarding what is true and what may not be true. If you look at it from the perspective of the organization, that is Dana and those representing Dana, you could find and you will feel from the way they are proceeding that every effort is made to ensure that they are exonerated from any negligence or whatever compromise may have caused this accident. If you look at it from the victims and those independent bodies that are also trying to ascertain what must happen, you will agree that there are reasonable, and mark my word, there are reasonable suspicion that they may have been the lowering of the guard in terms of the safety assurances that ought to be in place before you had a smooth.
You think they can influence the report of the AIB?
We are saying that nothing is impossible in Nigeria.
Okay, just before we
and that is why you are seeing that even before the end of the so-called inquest, there is already a full-blown legal action. For what purpose? Trying to stop the further investigation and the release.
What is going to be the essence?
Let me ask you before you
just
land.
Before we
assuming there is another air crashed by Dana, God forbid. How will you balance all of this argument that we're having?
We'll ask the federal government then. But now, let's quickly ask you, what will be the essence of this inquest? Because we have been told that investigations by the AIB is not punitive. would the inquest have been, towards the end of punishing
No,
Dana
surely I made the point that the inquest is usually for 3 purposes, and none of those purposes, as I did identify, goes near punishment. It is how, why, and
so punishment.
no, there are none. They don't even have they don't.
Okay.
It's a fact-finding.
But are you sure you won't fly Dana if all this dust is
As a matter of fact, I patronize Dana more than any other airline. But this is not about sentiment.
Okay.
There is a morbid aspect of this, and that is that people are still grieving.
All right.
And you are more interested in the business more than the lives of, which is your primary responsibility. That's our worry.
Okay, that Malaki Gomado is a legal practitioner.
We will join them at the Federal High Court. We will.